Hello TST Advanced Degree students, my name is David Ross. If you are watching this video, you probably have already received the email, the notification from TST and the U of T that I am running to be the next TGSA President, which is the TST Graduate Student Association. So if you've seen that email, you will already have seen my campaign statement, which is a short, sort of quite formal statement of my vision and how I would go about the role if I were elected to the position. I thought we had the option to include a link alongside that statement, and so I thought I'd record just a couple-minute long video to give a bit more of an informal explanation or elaboration on that formal statement, which hopefully you will have received and read. But as you will have seen, the statement really revolves around the fact that Canadian society and North American society and just our broader world moment is in a time of real polarization, and people sort of who would previously in generations past, they may have disagreed, whether it's liberal, conservative, liberal, but there would still have been this desire among many people to have mutually respectful conversation. And we still do have that, thankfully, in many parts of our Canadian society, but with the increased polarization, we've definitely seen more of the people who disagree with me are no longer just wrong or incorrect. They're the enemy, and they're fundamentally bad people who need to be eliminated or taken care of or got out of the way, kind of thing. Thankfully, our whole society is not in that bad of a place, but we're seeing more and more of that. And I think TST, if you're a TST AD student, you will already know that TST is a profoundly unique institution that I think is poised to make some pretty significant contributions to a Canadian society that is becoming more and more polarized, more and more combative, more and more people who disagree with me aren't just wrong, they're the enemy. And so I think TST is poised to make an incredible contribution to Canadian society in the fact that we have such a huge, broad range of religious, faith traditions, theological traditions, and many people who do not identify with a particular religion or faith tradition. And we have such a multiplicity of methods, interdisciplinary methods of coming at these big questions in life, which are often the very things that people in our society are tearing ourselves to pieces over. And so if I were elected the next TGSA President, I would want to lean in on and leverage and help TST AD students benefit from the fact that TST is such a unique organization in terms of this large group of people who have profound differences of opinion, who are still willing to work together and learn from one another and respect one another and grow. And so I would want to really lean in on that. How can TST AD students benefit from the fact that TST is this kind of unusual organization, and how can we as a student body leverage and galvanize TST's ecumenical resources to be a positive force in Canadian society for unity. Even in the midst of significant disagreement, we can still respect and defer to one another despite our differences. So that's sort of my overall vision, and you may be thinking, that's a nice idea, David, but how would you actually go about doing that if you were elected to be the next TGSA President? Well, I've got three quick things that are my thoughts to that end. The first thing would be TST already has multiple platforms for dialogue, things like our November Spaces of Encounter conference, which began last November and is continuing this November again. TST has also just begun a podcast, and TGSA already runs multiple various kinds of academic and student life workshops. So what I would want to do is to bring TGSA, the board, myself and the board, more to the fore in all of those existing platforms and contexts. So the Spaces of Encounter context, TGSA has already played a role in that, but I would like to increase that visibility, increase that engagement and integration of TGSA and TST's already existing platforms so that TST AD students can benefit from listening to and being listened by people with whom they have significant disagreements, and we can all be enriched and enlightened as a result of that. So that's the first part of my vision, to sort of create a stronger TGSA presence in the existing TST platforms and avenues for discussion. I'd also like to innovate some, along with the TGSA board, some fresh and new avenues for dialogue and discussion in the context of difference and disagreement. Some of you will be aware Those who are in my cohort and know me a little bit more personally, you know that I for many years struggled with very severe OCD. And so I am well acquainted with the fact that trying to do graduate studies is hard enough by itself, let alone with the presence of significant mental health challenges. And so in terms of a new platform, a new way that TGSA can contribute to TST being a space of unity and mutual respect in the context of difference, is I'd like to begin a new tradition of an annual TGSA student mental health workshop. This is something that the TGSA board, myself included, have already been discussing for a number of months. In case you're wondering, I've been the TGSA treasurer for the last 2.5 years or so. What I would want to do is create an event where students and also faculty from differing perspectives can contribute A, their lived experience of mental health, and B, some of the insights of their training or tradition in terms of, being a charismatic Pentecostal Christian myself. I approach recovery from severe OCD in one way, but someone from Emmanuel College or Knox or Regis or St. Mike's may do that in a different way. So how can we create in a TGSA mental health workshop that would be both a space for dialogue and unity in the midst of difference, and would be of practical use to students who are coping with the realities of mental health in the midst of a demanding graduate program. My third desire for how I would sort of action this vision as a whole is that some of you, I'm thinking, you've received this email or this communication from TGSA and the U of T about the fact that there's 2 individuals running to be the next TGSA president, and I'm pretty sure that some of you, this will be the first time you've actually heard of TGSA. The reason for that is because the perennial challenge of TGSA boards over the years is to bring TGSA and all that it offers and all that it has to offer from the peripheral of TST AD students' lives to be a more central feature of their experience. And I think previous boards and our previous president, Maureen, has done a great job of that. And I would like to build on those efforts so that TGSA isn't something on the peripheral that you've sort of heard of, and it does a couple sort of official things that need to be done. I would like it to become more central to the average TST AD student's life as a student in positive ways that can contribute to their growth and their health and their well-being and their development as a scholar or a practitioner. So that's a little bit of my vision of how I might want to achieve it. If you have any questions for me about, other facets of what I might bring to the table, or the dreams or goals that I have for the 2 years that I would be TGSA president if I were to be voted for, then feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat via email or even do Zoom calls if you'd like. My U of T email address is davidpaxton, that's PAXTON, .ross@mail.utoronto.ca. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, hopefully you're already aware also that there is another individual running for the TGSA presidency this year, and that is my colleague Luna Harlow. And she is a friend and a fantastic and incredibly capable individual. So I think the TST AD student body it's a bit of a win-win for you guys. Whether I get it, which hopefully, of course, I do hope that I do, I think that I'll do a great job. But even if I do not end up being the one who wins the vote, Luna would also do a fantastic job. So, as I said, if you have any more questions for me, feel free to reach out. But thanks for listening, and hope to hear from you at some point. Thanks. Bye.